Are you or someone you know looking to buy or sell a home? When you use a HomeGain Realtor to buy or sell a home, you can get $150. Visit homegain.com and click on the Promo 150 banner at the top of the page to get started. Compare HomeGain Realtors and choose your favorite. Complete your home purchase or sale transaction with a HomeGain Realtor, and HomeGain will pay you $150. Get started today by going to homegain.com. Welcome back, Washington, D.C. Metro, to Real Estate 360 Live. I'm your host, Ryan Silber, joined today by my guest, Louis Cammarosano, the general manager of HomeGain. Quick reminder, Real Estate 360 is designed to build the Washington, D.C. Metro's housing and credit markets. If you ever have any questions, concerns, or real estate needs, the best number to reach out to me is 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. That's an off-air phone number, so if you do call that number, leave your name and phone number, and I'll be glad to get back to you just as soon as possible. Before we went to break, we were discussing the implications, or what most people are actually projecting to be the second foreclosure tsunami of about 9 million homes. Louis, they said that, with all the lawsuit that just went through, that now it's going to open the floodgates for these 9 million basically properties that are underwater to be able to hit the market. And while I think that some of these foreclosures will hit the market, I think it's going to open up a little bit. I don't think it's going to be near as many as what they're projecting. One of the things in this article by, I'm trying to see who this was, on Zero Hedge, it actually said, here's the simple math: there will be no housing correction until the 9 million excess homes clear, period. Until then, it's a buyer's market. I don't believe that at all. It depends, and they're talking in such generalized terms. Here in the D.C. metro area, we don't have a problem of oversupply, so yet it's not really a buyer's market anymore. We're seeing more and more offers come in at full price or above full price. So this is very important, where you need to really look at your market and look at your market only for what's going on, because we're not seeing a flood of foreclosures here in the D.C. metro area, Northern Virginia, Maryland, D.C. It's just not happening. Maybe Florida, Nevada, Arizona, and those states would be a different story. But that's not what's going on here. And I really don't think that all of a sudden we're going to get a tsunami of foreclosures in the D.C. metro area. I just don't think it's going to happen, because overall, the job market is more healthy. And I think that, when you look across the country, that's really the main driver. I mean, can a person, they have the ability, have they been working for a year or two? Do they have stable income? Is their credit okay? Then they can obtain a home loan. In a lot of those areas that I just discussed previously, where Arizona, Florida, there's not near as many jobs. So I think that this whole foreclosure tsunami, and they've been talking about shadow inventory, Louis, for how long? 2 or 3 years now?
Well, they've talked about it for a long time, and the banks are in no rush to put these homes on the market, because then their balance sheets take a hit. Because right now they're able to hold on to these loans as performing assets when they're not, but once they go into foreclosure, then they have to show it as a bad asset. And also, the banks are aware that they don't want to, there's a supply and demand issue. They're not going to put them all on the market at once. They'll probably have a way of pushing them through the market. But I think the point to be made is not that there'll be a tsunami that'll take a year and flush it out. This will go on for a long time, because the banks will slowly release the shadow inventory, which will keep a damper on housing prices for a long time. Well, which is different than saying that they're all going to come out and they're going to crash the market.
Yeah, and my thing is too, though, Louis, is like this is not something like this is going to be over a long period of time. But I think that this problem is going to go on for the next 10 to 15 years, because
that's right. Take time. The banks are not going to release them all at once, and they're going to foreclose on them slowly, and they'll be sold slowly.
You have that, and then you also have on the flip side, you have the homeowners that are disgruntled because they're not able to take advantage of the low interest rates. So at some point in time where they need to make a career move, or they have to relocate for a job, and now all of a sudden they have this property that's still upside down, what do? These are the same people that have been paying their mortgage for the last 5 years. They've never missed a payment, so they don't have the intent to just default because just everybody else is. But at some point, they're going to have the same problem. We're not going to have probably a 2 or 3 year period where all of a sudden we have this massive 40% appreciation in homes. So regardless, I think that this is something that there's not really a good solution, and the best solution that I have is just to let it shake out as it may. But realistically, people are so far underwater. I mean, it's basically 1 in 3 people on your street that you're looking at, and everybody's street. It's like 1 in 3. That's not going to change, and it's probably not going to change for the next 15 to 20 years. So this is likely to be a continued problem. And there's really not, at this point, Louis, I think we've gotten so far into it that I don't think there's really a way to correct it.
Well, the way to correct it is, for the foreclosed homes to clear the market. But again, that's not going to happen quickly.
I know. And that's why I see it being a continued problem. It's interesting. I read an article where I saw that, Bank of America came out and said that they had wanted to convert a lot of their REOs to rentals, and they were trying this as as their pilot program, right? Well, the Fed had came in and said that they're the ones that are going to be setting the guidelines for these programs, and I'm trying to figure out how that works. Because I was reading that Bank of America had wanted to, rent these properties out, get where they're, been rented for a year or so on time, and then be able to turn around and bundle and sell those REOs that now have renters in them to investors. So I'm curious as to why the Fed would be the one setting the rules on this. It didn't make much sense to me.
Well, you have to wonder, why is the Fed in charge of employment? Why does the Fed have the sole determination of interest rates, the supply of money? Why are they in charge of? Didn't they recently get oversight over consumer affairs of some banking?
Yeah, I believe they did. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm pretty sure they did.
I don't know what I'm talking about, but I know it's some ridiculous authority that they put granted. So it doesn't surprise me that the Federal Reserve will get more and more power and have its hands in more and more things.
And I mean, I guess ultimately it's just because they're the ones that they're bailing out everybody and everything, that they're the ones that get to call the shots. So, and this
I guess it's their money is how they look at it.
Right. Exactly. So we're going to do with it what we want. And the political agenda of Obama, I mean, I'm sure that a lot of his agenda is being pushed down onto the Fed, and this is what we want to see happen. It's just it's really scary to me because I don't see the employment situation really turning around anytime fast. We have a low interest rate environment, which most people can't take advantage of. And
you've had stimulus as well, and that hasn't helped.
Right. And no plans to do anything with our debt load. None.
I mean, that issue has gone off the radar.
It's amazing. I think they talked about it, one of the first couple debates, and then after that it just disappeared.
Yep.
And it's back to the same old, where it's kick the can down the road, keep printing money, and this is going to go on for years and years because at this point, there's no turning back. And it's just a matter of time before we're having to deal with stuff like Greece, now Spain, and probably more and more countries in the future. It's something that is very important to talk about, and the people that are talking about it, like Ron Paul, they're not getting the mass media coverage that they should. And more than likely, what's going to happen is that we'll probably continue this low interest rate environment. And I think that, it will be a good opportunity for people to continue to buy homes for the next year or two. I really don't see anything happening through this election year. And then the first year, whoever may win, nothing will really get accomplished in that first year. So I'd say interest rates are probably bound to stay 5% or less for the next 2 years. So with that being said, it's a great opportunity for people that are out there that want to lock in, their overall long-term cost of shelter, like we talked about earlier. So
absolutely. The natural interest rates should be and will be higher in 5 years, 10 years for certain.
Right. And, there's a lot of people out there that tend to believe that, well, maybe they can go a little bit lower. Well, it doesn't seem logical. I mean, it doesn't seem logical for them to be where they're at right now, but that's only because they're being manipulated. Knowing that the Fed last year bought about 61% of treasuries, they're going to have to continue buying mortgage-backed securities and treasuries at the rate that they're doing now in order for things not to get out of whack, because there's just not enough buyers out there to consistently buy up all of our debt. They have to
And our debt continues to go up, not just because of the interest payments we have to make, but because each successive federal budget gets bigger. None of the proposals call to cut the spending, other than Ron Paul's cut $1 trillion in the first year of when he's in office. The rest of the budget proposals increase the debt every year.
And I don't even they haven't even passed a budget in the last 3 years now.
They haven't passed a budget, and the ones that they're proposing are considered draconian if they slow the rate of increase of spending.
Right. Yes.
So no one has a proposal on the table to cut spending, so you're absolutely right. If no one's going to buy our debt, the Federal Reserve will have to buy an even greater percentage of an even greater number or dollar value of U.S. Treasuries to support the debt.
The one thing I'm actually curious to look up is how much money does the Fed actually have? You know what I mean? Like, what is that number? I mean, obviously the Fed, is a private entity. They're comprised of probably the richest people in the world. But at some point, I mean, these numbers it just almost seems like there's a master wizard behind all this. And it's just like they're just going to keep pushing zeros out and until it's, no longer, you can't do anything with it and our paper's not worth anything, which can happen.
This is the largest, I guess, experiment in the world and on the largest size because the U.S. is the global reserve currency, so they can print dollars and just spread them out all over the world, and the U.S. is yet really to bear the brunt of hyperinflation because we're able to export it to the entire world economy. Because any other country who's done this, and you go through Zimbabwe, Hungary, Argentina, the impacts of printing money show up pretty quickly in the local economy, but because what those countries do is they then lose faith in their own currency, and the currency dies.
Right.
But right now, it's very difficult for the whole world to lose faith in the U.S. currency because there really is an alternative currency because all of them are fiat. So where are you going to go?
Yep, and that's why we had constantly talk about gold and silver is the play there because it's it's the only really tangible thing that you can actually own. That's not some sort of fiat currency, and I say it at least once a show, but there's never been one fiat currency in the history of man that's not at some point become extinct, and it looks like the euro could be the next one. When we come,
and gold and silver have been currency for thousands of years. Both of them have served as monetary metals.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think it's a smart play. You and I talk about it all the time, Louis. We're coming up on a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the 4 C's of mortgage underwriting and what can you do to make sure that your loan has the best chance to get approved when we come back.